In a world where noise and haste are ever present, we often forget that the most profound transformations occur in the silence. The sun rises each morning, quietly illuminating the earth without a sound, yet its impact is felt across the globe. A seed, buried deep in the soil, grows in secret, its roots strengthening before it dares to break through the surface. Success works much the same way. It builds in quiet moments, gaining strength and momentum away from the public eye, until the time comes for it to emerge fully formed. Yet in our modern age of constant updates and instant gratification, we feel compelled to share every step of our journey, every flicker of inspiration. It's tempting to announce to the world that we're embarking on a new venture, launching a business, or beginning to write that book we've always dreamed of. But here's the truth. Talking about our plans too soon often trickles away the very energy required to see them to fruition. As C.S. Lewis once wisely said, "Never mistake motion for action." Every word we speak about our dreams can drain the drive needed to bring them into reality. By choosing to move in silence, we protect our focus and shield our hopes from doubt, distractions, and envy. Silence doesn't suggest secrecy, but strategy, creating a space where growth can occur unpressured by the expectations of others. It is in these quiet moments of preparation that our dreams begin to take shape. Like the potter shaping clay, every movement, every decision made in silence draws us closer to the masterpiece God intends for our lives. Success, true success, thrives not in the applause of others, but in the quiet, focused efforts of our hearts. Welcome to C.S. Lewis. Here, you will discover the path to a deeper and more meaningful relationship with God. Before we continue, please remember to subscribe below to stay up to date with our latest videos. Every subscribe, like, and comment helps us keep the C.S. Lewis channel going. Now, keep listening. The Bible, in its infinite wisdom, encourages us to seek this quiet place where God's voice can be heard without distraction. In Matthew 6:6, Jesus tells us, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." It is in the quiet, hidden moments of prayer and reflection that our true transformation occurs. Yet, in today's world, we are so often swayed by the noise of others' opinions. The temptation to share our plans, to seek validation, can become overwhelming. But, just as a tree does not shout about its roots, neither should we broadcast every movement toward our goals. Silence is a fortress, protecting us from the opinions that might derail our journey. Consider Joseph. In the Old Testament, he had dreams of greatness, but in his youthful enthusiasm, he shared them too openly. Instead of receiving the support he hoped for, he faced betrayal, envy, and hardship. In Genesis 37:5-11, Joseph's brothers, filled with jealousy, sold him into slavery. Had he kept his dreams to himself, who knows how differently his story might have unfolded. But even in the midst of betrayal, God was working. In silence, Joseph's heart was prepared for greater things. His journey was one of hidden growth. Each step, though unseen, was building him into the leader he was destined to become. What the enemy meant for evil, God meant for good. Genesis 50:20. This story reminds us that not everyone will understand the dreams God places in our hearts. Some may doubt, others may oppose, but we must remain steadfast. Silence provides the space for God to work without interference from others. It protects our vision from being marred by criticism and allows our focus to remain on the task at hand. The Bible also warns us against sharing what is sacred with those who cannot value it. In Matthew 7:6, Jesus advises, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." Here, Jesus is reminding us of the wisdom in discretion, protecting our dreams and visions from those who cannot see their worth. In the same way, when we share our plans too freely, we risk exposing them to criticism that they aren't yet strong enough to withstand. When we talk about our dreams prematurely, we open ourselves to a flood of opinions, some helpful, many not. These opinions can pull us in conflicting directions, causing us to lose sight of the original purpose God has placed in our hearts. This does not mean we should be secretive or hide from the world. It means we must guard our focus. Like a soldier preparing for battle, we must stay alert and protect our energy. The less we talk, the more we can focus on the work God has entrusted to us. Every step taken in silence is a step toward progress, building momentum that will carry us to success. Just as Nehemiah waited to share his vision of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem until the time was right, so too must we learn the value of patience and discretion. In Nehemiah 2:12, he writes, "I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem." Nehemiah understood the importance of protecting his mission until it was ready to be revealed. He did not rush to share. Instead, he prayed, prepared, and waited for the right moment. And so it is with our own dreams. We must learn to guard our hearts, protecting them from premature exposure. Silence does not mean inactivity. Rather, it allows for deep work to be done. It is in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, that our dreams are being shaped, our character refined, and our vision sharpened. The work that is done in secret, as Jesus reminds us, will be rewarded openly. Matthew 6:4 taught, "The journey may be long, and it may seem that others are rushing ahead. But those who work in silence, those who guard their focus and protect their momentum, will see their dreams unfold in due time." There's something profoundly deceptive about the way we measure success in the modern world. We live in an age where every moment is captured, shared, and scrutinized. Social media floods us with the idea that progress must be constantly visible, constantly validated. Yet in the quest for affirmation, we often mistake movement for actual achievement. Consider the words of C.S. Lewis. "Never mistake motion for action. Movement may look like progress, but it is not the same as meaningful work. Often, the most significant actions are the quietest, unseen by the world. A seed sprouts in the darkness of the soil, not with a fanfare, but with purpose. A marathon runner doesn't stop to boast about every stride, they simply run. We are tempted to share every step of the process, to let everyone know what we are doing, where we are going, and how we're going to get there. But what if, by doing so, we are unwittingly sabotaging our own success? Talking about our goals can feel like progress, but it often drains the very energy we need to achieve them. We pour out our thoughts and ideas into the world, only to find ourselves less motivated, less focused, and less driven. The truth is, every word spoken about a goal siphons off the fuel required to bring it to life. Think of it like a balloon. Each word, each announcement of your plans, is like a tiny hole letting out precious air until the balloon is limp and unfilled. What once seemed like a towering ambition now feels deflated, lacking the power to take flight. Silence, on the other hand, builds momentum. Just as a runner stays focused on the finish line, refusing to stop for applause or distractions, we too must learn to direct our attention fully to the task at hand. In this focused silence, our work becomes our witness. The results speak louder than any words we could say. There's a powerful biblical principle at play here. In Proverbs 14:23, it says, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." This is not just about financial gain. It's about the fruit of our labor, our dreams, our ambitions, our callings. The real reward comes not from talking about the work, but from doing the work. Talk is cheap, and when we indulge in it too freely, we rob ourselves of the energy needed for real accomplishment. Jesus himself, during his ministry, showed us the importance of moving quietly. In John 10:25, he said, "The works I do in my Father's name testify about me." His actions, his miracles, his teaching, these were his testimony, not his words alone. When we act in silence, we let our results testify for us, free from the need for constant validation or applause. Consider the story of Nehemiah. When God placed the vision of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem in his heart, he did not rush to share it. Instead, he took time to pray, to assess, and to prepare. It wasn't until the moment was right that he revealed his plans. His quiet work allowed him to focus on what truly mattered, the task at hand. In Nehemiah 2:12 he writes, "I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem." Nehemiah knew that in silence he could keep his momentum, protect his focus, and accomplish the work God had given him to do. It's easy to be deceived by the illusion of progress, by the constant chatter that fills our social media feeds, the endless updates that make us feel productive. But this external noise often pulls us away from the real work that is taking place in the quiet, unseen spaces of our lives. When we spend our time talking about our goals, we may feel accomplished in the moment, but that sense of fulfillment fades quickly. The true sense of progress comes from the steady, focused effort that doesn't need to be announced to the world. Think of an artist at work. They don't need to tell the world about every brushstroke they make. Their masterpiece slowly takes shape in the quiet of their studio, where every move is purposeful, each stroke a deliberate choice. It is only when the work is complete that the world sees the beauty of their labor. The artist's silence speaks volumes about their dedication, their passion, and their skill. The masterpiece reveals itself without explanation. In the same way, when we keep our plans to ourselves and focus on the work, we allow our results to speak for us. Our actions, our dedication, our commitment, and our perseverance become the testimony of our journey. We don't need to constantly announce our progress because the fruit of our labor will be visible in time. Jesus, too, was a model of quiet determination. He did not seek applause for his actions, nor did he waste time trying to explain his mission to every curious onlooker. In Luke 5:16 it says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." It was in these moments of solitude that he recharged, refocused, and prepared for the next step in his mission. Jesus knew the value of silence, the power of retreating to a quiet place to renew his spirit and strengthen his resolve. His quiet determination led to the fulfillment of his purpose, without the need for constant validation or praise. So, how do we apply this wisdom to our own lives? First, we must recognize that talking can drain us of the energy we need to act. Every time we speak about our dreams, we risk replacing action with words. We must resist the urge to share every step of the journey and instead focus on the work itself. Like an athlete training for a marathon, we must move with purpose, building strength and momentum quietly, without stopping to explain every stride. Second, we must trust the process. Just as a seed grows in silence, so too must we allow our dreams to develop in the quiet spaces of our lives. We don't need to rush to reveal everything to the world. There is value in waiting for the right moment to share, waiting until the work is ready to be seen. And finally, we must protect our momentum by setting boundaries around our time and energy. When we share our plans too freely, we open ourselves up to distractions and unnecessary opinions. Instead, we must focus on the work at hand, trusting that the results will speak for themselves. In silence, we find strength. In silence, we find progress. In silence, we find the space for God to work. It's a curious thing how easily we can become distracted from what truly matters. In a world that demands our attention from every direction, it seems almost impossible to focus on the task at hand. Our phones buzz with notifications, our minds jump from one thought to another, and before we know it, hours have passed with little to show for them. Yet, distraction is one of the greatest enemies we face when it comes to realizing our dreams. In his writings, C.S. Lewis often spoke of the subtle ways in which our desires and attention can be diverted from higher things. He said, "The task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts." What he meant was that our attention is not often occupied with things of great value, but with an endless stream of trivialities, little distractions that drain us of energy and purpose. The world around us is full of noise, and if we are not careful, we can be swept away by it. Think about the way distractions work. In the beginning, they may seem harmless, just a small diversion here and there, an interesting article to read, a casual conversation, a social media update. But over time, these small distractions add up, chipping away at our focus and momentum. What began as a well-meaning attempt to relax or entertain ourselves has become an obstacle to our progress. This is why silence is so important. Silence doesn't just give us space to think. It protects our time and attention from the relentless pull of distractions. It's a sanctuary where we can recalibrate, refocus, and center ourselves on the work that needs to be done. In the stillness, we find clarity. We can hear God's voice more clearly, discerning His will for our lives without the constant interference of external noise. The Bible offers a profound reminder in Psalm 46:10. Be still, and know that I am God. It's not enough just to hear God's voice. We must make space for it. We must be still, setting aside the distractions that cloud our minds and hearts. Only then can we truly experience the depth of His presence and the wisdom He offers. Silence is not just an absence of sound, it is the presence of God in our lives, guiding us toward His purposes. We see this principle in action in the story of Nehemiah. When God placed the vision of rebuilding Jerusalem's walls in Nehemiah's heart, He didn't immediately rush to action or seek approval. Instead, he took the time to pray and reflect, assessing the task with careful thought. In Nehemiah 2:12, he writes, "I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem." He knew that, in the quiet of his heart, God could work without the interference of others' opinions or distractions. Nehemiah understood that he needed to protect the vision God had given him before it could be made public. This lesson is particularly important for us today, where the world constantly demands our attention. We are bombarded by voices, some helpful, many distracting. If we listen to every opinion, every suggestion, every criticism, we risk losing sight of our own vision. The temptation is to please everyone, to justify our plans to others, and to seek their approval. But when we allow ourselves to be distracted by these voices, we dilute the power of our purpose. Consider the story of Martha and Mary in Luke 10:38-42. Martha was distracted by the many tasks of the day, overwhelmed by the demands of her work, while Mary sat quietly at Jesus' feet, listening to his words. Jesus gently rebuked Martha, saying, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." In this moment, Jesus highlighted the danger of distraction. Martha's busyness, though well-intentioned, caused her to miss out on the most important thing, the opportunity to be in the presence of Christ. This story serves as a reminder that, like Martha, we can become so consumed by the demands of life that we miss the quiet moments of connection with God. Distraction robs us of the ability to hear his voice, to see his hand at work, and to recognize the quiet but powerful movements of his Spirit. One of the greatest challenges of our time is learning how to protect our focus in a world filled with noise. Our phones, social media, and endless streams of information constantly demand our attention, and we often feel the pressure to keep up, to be present in every conversation, and to respond to every notification. But, as C.S. Lewis wisely put it, the moment you wake up each morning, all your wishes and hopes for the day rush at you like wild animals, and the first job each morning consists in shoving them all back, in listening to that other voice, taking that other point of view, letting that other larger, stronger, quieter life come flood. What Lewis describes here is the constant pull of distractions, the need to shove back the noise, and to allow God's voice to be the loudest in our hearts. It's a daily practice, an intentional decision to seek stillness and quiet, so that we might hear God more clearly. In the book of Hebrews 12:1-2, we are told to throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. Distractions, whether they come in the form of external noise or internal doubts, can easily trip us up and cause us to lose our way. But when we fix our eyes on Jesus, when we keep our focus on the goal, we are able to run with perseverance, undistracted and undeterred by the chaos around us. It's time for us to reclaim our focus. We must protect the quiet spaces of our lives, guarding them from the distractions that threaten to derail our purpose. Like Nehemiah, we must learn to pray, to reflect, and to move forward with quiet determination, unshaken by the opinions and demands of the world. Only then can we make the most of the opportunities God has given us. In silence we find focus. In focus, we find the power to accomplish what we are called to do. And in the power of focus, we discover the true strength to pursue our dreams. It is natural to feel excitement when we begin a new project or embark on a new journey. When a dream is first birthed in our hearts, it feels as if it's the most important thing in the world. We want to tell others, to share our excitement, and to invite them into our vision. But there's a quiet danger in revealing our plans too soon, a danger that can sabotage the very goals we are working so hard to achieve. C.S. Lewis often reflected on the human tendency to seek validation before the work is done. In his book Mere Christianity, he writes, "Don't talk about your plans too soon. The world is full of half-finished things, things that we speak of but do not do." It is an instinct to share our ambitions with others, to receive their approval, or to bask in the glory of being seen as someone who is doing something. But in doing so, we can end up losing the momentum and focus that we so desperately need to move forward. It's like telling someone that you've decided to run a marathon, only to find that the excitement of telling them drains away the energy you had to actually begin the training. The applause of others, though brief and fleeting, gives the illusion that progress has been made. But real progress is measured not in words, but in action. Words without action are hollow, and every time we speak about a goal, we risk substituting the act of talking for the act of doing. Jesus himself warned against the dangers of premature exposure in Matthew 6:1-4, where he cautions, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others, to be seen by them. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." Jesus understood the temptation to be seen and admired. He knew that when we seek the approval of others before the work is complete, we rob ourselves of the pure satisfaction that comes from doing something quietly and faithfully. The idea that our success will be measured by public approval is dangerous. It often leads us to share too much before we're ready to let others into the sacred space where our work is still in progress. But this exposure can lead to criticism, envy, or even sabotage. Like a tender sapling that has just begun to sprout, we need to protect our dreams from the harshness of the outside world until they are strong enough to stand on their own. Consider the story of Joseph, whose brothers betrayed him after he shared his dreams too openly. In Genesis 37:5-11, Joseph's vision of greatness was met not with support, but with jealousy and betrayal. His brothers, unable to understand the depth of his dreams, plotted to destroy him. Had Joseph kept his dreams to himself, had he allowed them to grow in silence, perhaps the path to fulfillment would have been smoother. Joseph's premature sharing of his dreams brought him suffering, but it also brought him growth. God used the time in silence and solitude to prepare him for the greatness that would come later. His dreams were not destroyed, but they were delayed. In the waiting, Joseph learned the value of discretion, and when the time came, he was ready to fulfill the vision that had been entrusted to him. The danger of premature exposure is not limited to criticism from others. It can also lead to self-doubt. When we share our plans too early, we invite external voices into our internal struggle. People may question our abilities, challenge our intentions, or offer unsolicited advice that throws us off course. This can cause us to lose our confidence and weaken our resolve. Nehemiah understood the importance of protecting his vision. When God placed the burden of rebuilding Jerusalem's walls in his heart, he did not rush to announce it to the world. In Nehemiah 2:12, he writes, "I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem." Nehemiah knew that in the early stages, the vision needed to remain protected. It needed time to grow strong enough to withstand the pressures that would come when it was revealed. By waiting for the right moment, Nehemiah protected his focus. He didn't waste time justifying his vision to others or defending his purpose. Instead, he stayed focused on the work, taking practical steps to bring the vision into reality. When the time came, the people were ready to follow, and the project was completed with success. This story offers a powerful lesson about the value of silence and discretion. We must learn to guard our dreams until they are ready to be shared. The world does not need to see the raw, unfinished work. They need to see the completed masterpiece. It is in the quiet preparation that the foundation for success is laid. When we rush to expose our plans, we risk exposing ourselves to unnecessary distractions and vulnerabilities. There is a quiet strength in waiting, in allowing our dreams to grow in the secret place where they are protected from premature exposure. This strength is not passive. It is a focused, intentional effort to protect our momentum, to preserve our energy, and to nurture the work that God has called us to do. This principle of discretion is rooted deeply in biblical wisdom. In Ecclesiastes 3:1 we are reminded, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. There's a time to act and a time to be still. There's a time to work quietly, to build, and to prepare. Only when the time is right should we reveal the fruit of our labor to the world." Success is not about announcing every step along the way. It is about the steady, consistent work that happens when no one is watching. It is about building something strong and lasting, something that will stand the test of time. And when the work is done, the results will speak for themselves. Like a farmer tending his fields, we must wait for the harvest in silence, knowing that the work we've done in secret will yield a bountiful crop. We must learn to protect our dreams from premature exposure. This is not a call for secrecy, but for wisdom. By waiting until the time is right, we protect our focus, our energy, and our momentum. In the silence of preparation, we allow our dreams to grow into something stronger, something worth sharing with the world. In the pursuit of our dreams, there is one simple yet often overlooked truth. Action is the key to transformation. While it is easy to become enamored with ideas, visions, and plans, it is only through the consistent, daily effort that these dreams can be realized. We live in a world that celebrates the idea of success, but too often neglects the quiet, unseen work that makes success possible. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the unpleasant things as interruptions of one's or real life." The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions are precisely one's real life. What Lewis reminds us here is that the work that leads to success is not a grand, singular event. It is the small, consistent steps taken each day, often in the face of difficulty and distraction, that truly build a life of purpose. We can often get caught up in the excitement of a new project, eager to tell others about it. But true progress is measured not in the words we speak, but in the action we take. A marathon runner does not run one race and then stop. They run every day, mile after mile, building endurance and strength. They know that success comes not from announcing their goal, but from moving toward it steadily, even when the finish line is far from sight. This is where many of us stumble. We confuse the illusion of progress with real progress. Talking about a goal can give us a temporary sense of accomplishment, but it is only through doing the work that the dream truly begins to take shape. The Bible offers us a profound reminder in James 2:26, where it says, "As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead." In the same way, our plans and dreams without consistent action are dead. They may look good on paper, but without the effort to bring them to life, they remain nothing more than hopeful ideas. The power of consistent action is also evident in the lives of great leaders throughout history. Take Nehemiah, for example. God placed the vision of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem in his heart, but Nehemiah didn't rush to announce his plans. Instead, he took careful, deliberate steps to prepare. In Nehemiah 2:17, he speaks of the moment when he revealed the task to the people of Jerusalem. "Then I said to them, 'You see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. Nehemiah's focus on consistent, small actions is what led to the completion of the wall. He didn't rely on grand speeches or dramatic declarations. He didn't wait for the perfect moment to act. Instead, he built the wall brick by brick, step by step, despite opposition and doubt. And in the end, the wall stood strong as a testament to his faithfulness and perseverance. The results of Nehemiah's steady, quiet work are evident not just in the completed wall, but in the people who came together to rebuild the city. It's easy to think that success happens all at once, that one big breakthrough or dramatic moment will bring everything into place. But in reality, success is the sum of many small, seemingly insignificant actions taken day after day. Whether it's writing a few pages every morning, making a few calls each week, or putting in the work when no one is watching, it is this consistent effort that adds up to a finished product. The story of the tortoise and the hare in Aesop's fable illustrates this point perfectly. The hare, confident in its speed, races ahead but takes breaks along the way, assuming it will win without effort. The tortoise, on the other hand, moves slowly but steadily, never distracted by the hare's boastfulness. In the end, the tortoise wins the race, proving that consistent, focused action always prevails over rushed or half-hearted attempts. This fable is a reminder that success is not a sprint, but a marathon, a slow, steady journey toward a goal that requires discipline, patience, and resilience. Jesus himself demonstrated the importance of consistent action throughout his ministry. He didn't perform miracles simply to prove his power or impress others. Each act of healing, each teaching, each moment of compassion was an expression of his unwavering commitment to God's will. In John 5:17, Jesus says, "My Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working." Jesus knew that his mission was one of daily, consistent action, not one of grand gestures. He was about the Father's business each and every day, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant the task might have seemed. The danger we face today is that we often want instant results. We want to see the fruits of our labor immediately, and when we don't, we become discouraged. But the Bible teaches us that success, especially the kind that lasts, is built on patience and perseverance. In Galatians 6:9, Paul encourages us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." We must trust the process. Trust that the small, seemingly insignificant actions we take today will build the foundation for tomorrow's success. Trust that every effort, no matter how small, is a step closer to realizing the vision that God has placed in our hearts. And most importantly, we must remember that the work we do in secret, without the need for applause or recognition, is the work that matters most in the eyes of God. The power of consistent action is transformative. It shapes our character, builds our momentum, and over time, brings our dreams to life. By focusing on the work and not the outcome, we allow ourselves the freedom to fail, learn, and grow. And when the time comes to reveal the results, they will stand as a testament to the quiet, consistent efforts that made them possible. In a world that thrives on instant gratification and the constant noise of distractions, there is a profound power in quiet focus. This focus does not come naturally. It requires intentionality, discipline, and the courage to resist the pull of the immediate. Yet it is through this focused attention that we are able to truly cultivate the lives we have been called to lead. And it is in these moments of quiet, undistracted work that we find the deepest blessings. C.S. Lewis, in his classic The Screwtape Letters, wrote about the subtle nature of distractions. The only thing that matters is the work you are doing at this moment. The present is the only time you have. He recognized that we often lose ourselves in the noise of past regrets or future anxieties, all the while neglecting the present task that God has placed before us. Distractions pull our hearts away from what truly matters, right here, right now. It is in the present, in the stillness of our minds, that God works most profoundly. Imagine a river. If it flows wildly and chaotically, without direction or purpose, it is destructive. The floodwaters ravage the land, uprooting trees, washing away homes, and leaving only devastation in its wake. But when that same river is allowed to flow steadily, with purpose and direction, it becomes a life-giving force. It carves valleys, nourishes the earth, and provides for those who depend on it. The difference between the flood and the river is focus, quiet, intentional focus. In the same way, our lives can either be chaotic or purposeful. We can allow the flood of distractions to overwhelm us, or we can choose to become like the steady river, focused, deliberate, and moving toward the goal that God has set before us. This kind of quiet focus does not come by accident. It requires discipline, the decision to silence the distractions, and the patience to allow the work to unfold over time. In the Bible, we see many examples of people who achieved great things through focused effort and silence. Nehemiah, whom we've already mentioned, is perhaps one of the clearest examples of someone who embraced quiet focus. When God called him to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, he did not rush to announce his plans to everyone around him. Instead, he quietly assessed the situation, prayed, and waited for God's timing. He did not allow the noise of criticism or distraction to pull him off course. In Nehemiah 2:18, after preparing for months in secret, Nehemiah declares, "Then I told them about the gracious hand of my God upon me, and what the king had said to me. They replied, 'Let us start rebuilding.' So they began this good work." It was only after Nehemiah had focused his attention, gathered his resources, and prayed for guidance that he shared the vision with others. His quiet preparation had prepared him for the moment of action. This lesson in quiet focus is echoed throughout the scriptures. Jesus himself often withdrew to quiet places to pray, to listen, and to prepare for the work ahead. In Luke 5:16 it says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Jesus knew that the work he was doing required not only action, but also the strength that comes from quiet communion with the Father. In the solitude, he found clarity and direction, and it was from this place of deep focus that he was able to accomplish his earthly mission. Jesus also taught us the value of focusing on the present moment. In Matthew 6:34 he says, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Jesus understood that the key to living a life of purpose was to focus on the task at hand, to be present in the moment, and to trust that God would provide for the future. Too often, we get bogged down by worries about what might happen or what has already happened, forgetting that the present moment is the only one we truly have. We can all relate to the temptation to constantly look ahead or dwell on the past. The future, with its uncertainties and possibilities, can overwhelm us, just as the past, with its regrets and what-ifs, can haunt us. But when we choose to focus on the present, we free ourselves from the weight of both. In focusing on what we can do today, in this moment, we align ourselves with God's will for our lives, and allow Him to work in the here and now. This is where quiet focus becomes a blessing. When we are focused on the work God has called us to, we begin to see the small, seemingly insignificant steps we take each day as part of a greater story. We begin to recognize the hand of God in the details of our lives, and we find joy and fulfillment in the daily process. Success, after all, is not the destination. It is the journey, the faithful pursuit of God's calling, day by day. The Bible tells us that, in everything we do, we should do it with all our heart, as if working for the Lord, not for men. Colossians 3:23. Quiet focus allows us to pour ourselves into our work with a sense of purpose and dedication, knowing that God sees every effort, no matter how small or unnoticed. And as we continue to focus on the task at hand, God blesses our efforts, multiplying them beyond what we could ever imagine. Quiet focus also brings peace. In a world full of noise and chaos, the ability to quiet the mind and direct our attention toward the work before us is a gift. It allows us to work without distraction, to move with purpose, and to find fulfillment in the process rather than in the recognition. It is in these moments of focused effort that we experience the deep satisfaction of knowing we are doing exactly what God has called us to do. When we embrace quiet focus, we remove the pressure to impress others or seek their approval. We free ourselves from the temptation to compare our journey with others or measure our success by worldly standards. Instead, we find peace in knowing that our worth is not defined by what we accomplish, but by who we are in Christ. In the quiet of our hearts, we can hear the still small voice of God guiding us, strengthening us, and blessing our efforts. As we reach the final chapter of this journey, there is one last truth we must embrace: the reward that comes from living a life hidden in God's purpose. We have discussed the dangers of distractions, the power of silence, and the importance of focus. But there is a deeper truth that unites all these elements. The life that is lived in secret, with God as the only audience, is the life that bears the most lasting fruit. C.S. Lewis often spoke of the quiet, unseen work that builds true character. He wrote, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less." This is the essence of living a hidden life, the act of focusing on the work at hand without seeking recognition or applause. When we live with humility, we protect our dreams from the distractions of pride and vanity. We understand that the work itself, not the accolades, is the true reward. Jesus himself modeled this principle throughout his life. He did not perform miracles for the sake of spectacle or to gather followers. In fact, he often withdrew from the crowds, choosing solitude and quiet over fame and glory. In Matthew 6:4, Jesus tells us, "Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." There is a divine reward for those who choose to live their lives in quiet dedication to God's will. This reward is not always immediate, and it is often invisible to the world. But it is real, and it is eternal. This truth is seen throughout the pages of Scripture. Joseph, after years of suffering and hidden labor, was exalted to a position of great power, not for the sake of his own glory, but to fulfill the greater purpose of God. When his brothers stood before him, not recognizing him, Joseph revealed the hand of God at work in his life. In Genesis 50:20, Joseph says to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's life was hidden for a season, but God's purpose was unfolding in the quiet, unseen moments of his journey. Similarly, Nehemiah's quiet, steady work in rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem was rewarded not just by the completion of the task, but by the restoration of a nation. The work that God placed in his heart was not for the glory of Nehemiah, but for the glory of God. And in the end, the walls were rebuilt, the people were restored, and the glory was given to God. The reward of a hidden life is not the applause of men, but the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing that we are fulfilling God's will, moment by moment, in the small and unseen actions of our lives. It is the peace that comes from knowing we are doing what God has called us to do, even when no one is watching. It is the quiet joy of knowing that our efforts, though hidden, are not in vain. God sees them, and in his perfect timing, he will reveal the fruit of our labor. Jesus encourages us to live our lives in such a way that our work speaks for itself. In Matthew 5:16, he says, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." This verse doesn't suggest that we should boast or seek the limelight. It simply calls us to live with such authenticity and dedication that our actions speak louder than our words. Our lives, hidden in God's purpose, will reflect his glory, and that, in turn, will inspire others to follow him. The key to living this hidden life is to remember that our identity is not found in what we do, but in who we are in Christ. We are his workmanship, created to do good works, not for the praise of men, but for the praise of our Heavenly Father. When we live in this way, we find that the desire for recognition fades, and the desire to serve God with our whole heart takes its place. As we embrace the quiet path of obedience, we begin to see that success is not defined by the world's standards. It is not about how many people recognize our accomplishments or how much recognition we receive. True success is found in the peace of knowing that we are faithful to the task that God has given us, regardless of whether anyone else notices. In Hebrews 11, we are reminded of the great heroes of faith who lived lives of quiet obedience. They did not seek fame or fortune, but they sought God's approval, and in doing so, they received the eternal reward. Hebrews 11:6 says, "And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." The reward is not in earthly recognition, but in the pleasure of God. So, as we conclude this journey, let us remember the words of Jesus in Matthew 6:6. "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." The reward of a hidden life is not seen in the world's applause, but in the quiet, faithful steps we take in obedience to God's call. It is a reward that is eternal, and it is worth every moment of waiting, every moment of silent labor. The secret to success is not in the noise or the recognition, but in the quiet, steady, and faithful pursuit of God's will. As we continue on our journey, let us embrace the power of silence, the strength of focus, and the reward of a life lived hidden in God's purpose. As we reflect on this journey, we are reminded that success is not about seeking validation or applause from the world. It is about faithfully pursuing God's calling in the quiet spaces, trusting in his timing, and knowing that every step taken in obedience is rewarded by him. The work may not always be seen, but it is never wasted. The reward of a hidden life is far greater than anything this world can offer, an eternal reward from our Heavenly Father. May we learn to guard our hearts, protect our focus, and trust that in the quiet, God is working in ways we cannot always see. Let us walk boldly in the knowledge that every quiet step taken in His purpose is one step closer to the fulfillment of His will. Did this story resonate with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What steps are you taking to protect your focus and live out God's purpose in silence? Don't forget to subscribe to the C.S. Lewis channel for more inspiration and spiritual insight